Hey guys, today I want to show you how we can use some basic features of Express to set up a very simple HTTP server. So first, let's create our package. Let me clean the console here. Let's initialize our package and install Express. I'm gonna install Nodemon as well, so we don't need to restart our application every time. And let me create a source folder and the index file. So I created this dev script here that is just calling Nodemon. Okay, so if you don't know how HTTP servers work, I just want you to know that there is a client and a server, and the client makes a request to the server, and the server, based on the request, sends a response to the client. So based on this, we can start building our app. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is require Express and create an instance of Express. Okay, so we created an instance of Express, and how can we handle these requests and send the responses here inside our server? Well, we can do this by using functions and grabbing the request and the response object as parameters. So I'm going to say function handle hello request response, and then I'm going to console log the request and send a response with a string hello world. So this is a very basic controller. So we are reading here, I'm just logging the request and sending hello world with the response object. Okay, so how can we apply this controller to a specific route? So for example, if you have the website.com/hello, how can we define this route? How can we specify this controller to handle the requests at this URL? Well, we can do this by grabbing our instance and specifying the method, the URL, and the controller we want to handle these URLs. So okay, so what am I saying here? I'm saying every request with the get method that comes to this URL will be handled by this function. Okay, so how can we start our application? We need to listen to a specific port in our computer. So I'm going to say here app.listen, specify the port, in this case will be 3000, and a callback function that I'm going to just console log server started. Okay, so we can run this by just saying npm run dev, that is the script we just defined, and we can see here server started. So we can test this using an extension here in Visual Studio Code, but if you're not using Visual Studio Code, there is a bunch of apps that you can use, for example Postman and Insomnia. I'll link one of them here in the description. So if you're using VS Code, you can search here in the extensions tab to Thunder client, and you can install it and use it to test your application. So let's use this. Let's create a new request and replace this URL here to localhost, since we are running this in our local machine, and specify the port. In my case it's 3000, and slash hello. That is the route we just defined here. Let's send this, and we have our response, hello world. Alright, so we already know how to use controllers, and we already know how to apply them to a specific route. So let me tell you about middleware now. We can put more than one function here to handle the same request. So for example, I can have a middleware function here between my URL and my last controller, and I can have many of them. So let's define a function first. So let's pretend we have a protected route that the client will only access if the request.body, if the body of the request have a permission property set to true. So let's write this function. I'm gonna call this verify permission and grab the request response arguments. Then I'm going to destruct permission from the request.body. So this is the body of the request. Requests have many useful properties, and we can destruct the permission that is coming from the body of our request. This is sent by the client. So we can verify if permission, we can say next. Okay, so what we are doing here, we are verifying if permission is set to true here in the request.body, and we are calling the next function, and we can grab this next function here in the third parameter. So here, handle hello. For example, if we have verify permission between handle hello and the URL, we can call the last controller by calling this next function. So how can we apply this middleware to a route? app.get /hello/protected, and we pass verify permission and handle hello. So here we are calling the next function, that is the handle hello, if the client has permission. Okay, so we need to do some configurations here to our app. So let me say here configuration and app.use express.json. So now we are able to read JSON data from our request.body. Okay, we can save this, go back to Thunder client and type the URL hello/protected. So we should see here unauthorized if we don't have the permission, and we should see hello world if we do. So let me define the body here of our request. I'm going to say permission. I'm going to say nothing now. Let's send this request, and we can see here unauthorized. And if I put here the permission property as true, now we have the hello world response. And if I set it to false, we have the unauthorized response. So you can see here the status code of this response is 200. That means okay, success. But that's not actually the case. We are receiving an unauthorized message, so the status code should be 401. So we can change this by here in the response object. We can say response.status, and we can define the status as 401, which means unauthorized, and then send you do not have permission. So now if we send this again, now you will see a 401 unauthorized and the message you do not have permission. We already know how to use middleware's function, how to use controllers, how to apply them to routes. So let me tell you about routers. We can create a router by saying express.router. So imagine the case where we have a lot of routes, similar routes, just like this. hello/protected, hello/public, hello/users, hello/posts, hello/cars. So we have this hello over and over again. We don't need to do this. We can just define this part of the URL and apply a base URL and also keep our code more organized. So we can do this by creating a router. So we can define just like we did before. So I'm going to say router.get, for example, customers, and we can define the controller here. So I am defining my controller using an anonymous function and an arrow function, grabbing the request and response objects, thus just like we did before. Okay, so we can go here and say const customers equals an array of names, I don't know, so we can go like, and we can send back to user with the response.status 200.json, and then we can send the customers. Then we can set up another route for another methods. So for example, if you want to create a customer, let's say here router.post/customers. Then we can say request and response. Since this is a post method, so it's a post route, it means that the client is sending data to us. So I'm going to destruct the customer from the request.body. Okay, so let me get this array out here so we can use this inside these both functions. And I'm going to say customers.push customer and say response.status 201, which means created.json customers. So how can we apply this router here to our app? App.use, define the URL. So for example, I'm going to say API, and then I'm going to specify the router that I want to handle the requests at this base URL. So these URLs actually are /API/customers. Okay, so now that we have done this, we can test our application. Let's open up Render Client again, and then we can change here to /API/customers. And we have our list of customers. So if we try to get the API/customers, we should get a 404 here because this route is not defined. We just defined the /API customers because we are applying this base URL before this URL. Okay, So now if I change the method here to post and pass the customer here as, I don't know, Pedro, we should see Pedro here the next time that we get our array. Of course, this is being stored in memory. It's not real data, but it works just to showcase. So here we have the Pedro. If I send it again, it will create every time I send it, and we can see the status 201 created. Okay, so that's it. That's all I wanted to show you today about the Express basic features. I hope you learned something in this video, and if you found this useful, please consider send to a friend that you know that want to learn Express too. Thanks for watching.